Schumacher's secret Ferrari clause? This is where it gets interesting. Ah, yes. The era when Michael Schumacher didn't just race, he ruled. 7 titles, endless trophies, and a Ferrari team that would have licked the tarmac if he asked. But here's the thing. Was it really just Michael being a god behind the wheel? Or was the whole team built around making sure only he won? Let's talk about Austria 2002. Rubens Barrichello was leading the race. He was faster, he earned it. But then, with meters to go, the infamous radio message, "Rubens, let Michael pass for the championship." Over. Rubens slows down like someone cut his brakes. Michael wins. Booing starts. Podium gets awkward. But that's when fans started whispering, did Schumacher have some kind of secret contract clause? Something like, all team resources go to Michael. No questions, no mercy. Because this wasn't just a one-time thing. Rubens got shoved aside multiple times. Every strategy call, every pit stop, every tire decision, somehow it always worked out for Schumi. Almost too well. Even the FIA looked suspicious. Ferrari would pull these moves, and instead of getting punished, they'd get a slap on the wrist. Or worse, nothing at all. People started calling the FIA the Ferrari International Assistants. Not even joking. That was the meme back then. But don't forget how cozy Ferrari and the FIA were. Jean Todt, Ferrari team boss, later became FIA president. Coincidence? Maybe. But in F1, coincidence means definitely shady, but we'll pretend it's fine. Schumacher was insanely talented, no doubt. But the conspiracy is this. Did he really beat everyone? Or did the system make sure nobody else had a chance? Because if you're racing against Michael and the team and the stewards, yeah, good luck with that. Fans still argue about it. Some say he earned everything fair and square. Others say it was like racing on Michael mode while everyone else was on beginner settings. Either way, when your teammate can't even try to beat you without getting yelled at, it makes you wonder, was it greatness or just a really expensive puppet show? You tell me. The grid rigging allegations, the mother of all F1 conspiracies, the one that makes every late safety car, every mid-season rule tweak, every weird penalty start to look like part of a script. The theory, the grid is rigged, not every race, not every lap, but just enough to keep the show spicy. Look, F1 isn't just sport anymore. It's entertainment. Liberty Media owns it. Netflix markets it. Every team has social media managers now. There are memes in the paddock and cameras in every garage. It's like keeping up with the constructors. But when things get too predictable, that's when the rulebook starts dancing. Remember 2021? Of course you do. The Abu Dhabi meltdown. But rewind further. Mid-season, Red Bull's flying. Mercedes is sweating. Suddenly, boom, rule change about flexi wings. Who did that hit hardest? Red Bull. Now flip it to 2022. Red Bull's got a porpoising-proof car. Mercedes bouncing like a broken trampoline. Then out of nowhere, the FIA mandates floor changes to help with driver safety, of course, but also magically helps Mercedes. But don't even get me started on safety cars. Late race crashes that bunch up the field, random virtual safety cars right when the leader is building a gap, DRS zones being added or removed with zero consistency. Fans aren't blind. They've seen enough to raise eyebrows, because here's the dirty truth. Predictable races don't get views, but chaos, drama, last lap overtakes, that sells. And don't forget Liberty Media's influence. Since they took over, the sport became a show. Better coverage, more fans, more merch, great stuff. But the dark side? When the show needs a hero, or a villain, or a redemption arc, suddenly, real races start looking like plot devices. Like Ferrari's collapse in 2022. Was it really all strategy fumbles? Or did someone behind the scenes say, you know what this season needs? A tragic comedy. Boom. Ferrari forgets how to do math. Or how about all the midfield shuffles? Teams like Haas going from P5 one week to backmarker with vibes the next. Alpine blowing up mid-race with both cars. Williams surprisingly fast on Saturdays, only to vanish on Sundays. The FIA will say, that's just racing. Fans say, that's just scripting. But here's the final twist. No one can prove it. The sport hides behind complex regulations and technical directives that are 90% grey area and 10% please don't ask questions. So the theory lives in the shadows, a whisper in the paddock, a Reddit thread that won't die. That maybe, just maybe, the outcome isn't always up to the drivers. Because in the end, F1 is part racing and part reality show with helmets. Mercedes' 2014 power unit prelook. Now let's talk about the most suspicious head start in modern F1 history. It's 2014. The V8 engines are dead. The new era of hybrid V6s is here. Teams are panicking, except one. Mercedes. While everyone else is burning through engines like toaster ovens, Mercedes shows up with a power unit that might as well be nuclear. Fast, reliable, and freakishly dominant. They didn't just win, they obliterated the grid. The car was so fast, Lewis and Nico were in their own private league, like F1 and F1.5. But here's the theory. What if they knew the rules early? Not like, oh, we read the regulations? Number like, we helped write them early. Whispers around the paddock said the FIA may have given Mercedes a sneak peek, months before anyone else. Why? To help them build something unbeatable while the others were still figuring out what a turbocharger does? It's the classic, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. Except this was more like, if you ain't engineering the rules from the inside, enjoy midfield. But here's where it gets extra spicy. Right after Mercedes nailed the engine, the FIA introduced an engine freeze. Translation, whatever you built, you're stuck with it, which meant everyone else was locked into catching up while Mercedes chilled at the top. Suspicious, right? Imagine showing up to an exam with the answer key, then the teacher tells everyone else they can't study anymore. That's what this felt like. Even Toto Wolff, in his best poker face, acted surprised. Oh wow, we didn't expect to be this fast. Sure, man. And Ferrari didn't expect to mess up another strategy call. 8 straight constructors titles. Every race, it was Mercedes 1-2. You could set your watch to it. Teams tried to fight back, but the gap was insane. They weren't just ahead, they were gone. And all because they maybe got a little extra help. Was it smart business? Political brilliance? Straight up luck? Or was it the cleanest, quietest heist in F1 history? Depends who you ask. Mercedes fans say dominance. Lewis. Everyone else? Yeah, alright, something's fishy. The Verstappen favoritism files, this is where it gets juicy. But to be clear, Max is fast. Like, disturbingly fast. You don't stumble into 3 world titles by luck, but you might stumble into a few sketchy decisions that always seem to go your way. Welcome to the Verstappen favoritism files. Let's roll back to 2021, that glorious, cursed, conspiracy-baiting season. Everything was tight between Max and Lewis, insane wheel-to-wheel racing, drama every weekend, but then the red flags, the tire pressures, the racing incident decisions, and somehow every time, Max came out on top. Brazil, Max runs Lewis off the road, no penalty, FIA shrugs. Saudi Arabia, Max brakes in front of Lewis mid-straight, rear-end collision. Let's investigate later. But then we get to the main event, the one that broke the internet. Abu Dhabi, last race, last lap, Michael Masi pulls the biggest plot twist in F1 history. Lapped cars may now overtake, but only some of them. Why? Because we want a race. Translation, let's cook up a TV moment. Max, on fresh tires, overtakes Lewis and wins the title. Nobody can believe it. Mercedes is getting crazy. But here's the theory. Was the FIA quietly making sure their new golden boy got the crown? Because let's be honest, the timing was perfect. New regulations coming, Lewis had been dominating for years. Red Bull's fan base growing, Netflix cameras rolling, a fresh champion, that's ratings gold. But then the season ends, Masi gets yeeted from existence, and the FIA goes full, we acknowledge errors were made but we're not changing anything. What? Ever since then, Max has been on cruise control. Even when Red Bull broke the cost cap in 2021, we'll get to that later, the punishment was so light it may as well have been a participation trophy. And don't forget the tire pressure drama at Baku, rumors that Red Bull ran under the limit, no clear penalty, just another technical note from the FIA. Funny how things always seem to work out, and again, Max is brilliant. But when you add up all the calls, the timing, the lack of penalties, the red flags that appear just when he needs them, it starts to feel less like racing, and more like divine intervention in an energy drink can. Coincidence? You can decide. FIA, Ferrari's international assistants. Ferrari, the oldest F1 team, also, allegedly, the FIA's favorite child. Let's unpack the meme that became a dark movement. Ferrari international assistants. Yes, that's what fans actually started calling the FIA, because every time Ferrari should have gotten slapped, they somehow walked away with a handshake and a cappuccino. But look, Ferrari does have a long history of being dramatic, emotional, and, let's be honest, strategically challenged. But back in the 2000s, it felt like the FIA was doing everything to make sure the red cars stayed in front. Example? Let's go back to 1999. The rules suddenly change. Barge boards, grooves, you name it. And guess who's immediately on top of the new regulations? Ferrari. What a coincidence. Or how about 2003 when Michelin tires were outperforming Bridgestone, Ferrari's tire supplier? Boom, mid-season rule change. Suddenly Michelin's tire design is illegal. And oh wow, Ferrari wins the championship again. Totally normal. But then there's 2006. Schumacher parks his car on purpose in Monaco qualifying, blocks the track, stops Alonso from getting pole. FIA investigates. Penalty, starts from the back, but somehow finishes 5th anyway. Classic. Even penalties that looked obvious, like unsafe releases or blocking in the pit lane, somehow got reviewed after the race or noted. Meanwhile, if another team so much as sneezed wrong, it's a 5-place grid drop. The theory is simple. Ferrari brings money, legacy, and viewers. If they suffer, the sport suffers. So the FIA, whether consciously or not, tilted things their way. But it wasn't just fans saying this. Teams started calling it out. McLaren, Williams, even Red Bull at one point. But here's the twist. In recent years, Ferrari can't even help themselves. No more favoritism, just vibes and failure. Strategies that look like they came from a confused intern. So either the FIA stopped helping, or they just got tired of Ferrari fumbling the bag on their own. Spygate 2007, the stolen championship? Oh boy, let's go back to 2007, when McLaren straight up stole Ferrari's homework. No metaphors here. They literally had Ferrari's top secret design documents. 780 pages of here's how to build our car, dropped into McLaren's lap by a bitter Ferrari mechanic named Nigel Stepney. And guess who received those golden blueprints? McLaren engineer Mike Coughlin, who, like a genius, had his wife photocopy the files at a local copy shop. Because if you're gonna commit corporate espionage, obviously you let your wife run it through the local copy shop, but then someone snitched. The FIA gets involved. And McLaren suddenly has to explain why their car is suspiciously similar to Ferrari's, but definitely not because we stole their design. Swear. Meanwhile, drama explodes inside McLaren. Rookie Lewis Hamilton is lighting it up. Two-time champ Fernando Alonso isn't having it. He's mad. He wants #1 status. But when he doesn't get it, he turns into a walking HR violation. At one point, Alonso even threatens to blackmail McLaren boss Ron Dennis. Give me #1 driver treatment or I'm leaking these emails to the FIA. Imagine blackmailing your own team with stolen documents. Incredible scenes. The FIA investigates. McLaren gets hit with the biggest fine in sports history, $100 million. Let me repeat that, $100 million. And they're kicked out of the Constructors' Championship. But here's the catch. The drivers, Lewis and Alonso, totally untouched. They kept all their points, no bans, no penalties, just vibes and tension, which led fans to ask, was this rigged? Because let's think, if McLaren benefited from stolen Ferrari secrets all season, how did the drivers not get punished? Answer, because the title fight was too good to ruin. Lewis versus Alonso versus Kimi was TV TV gold. Killing it would have killed the ratings. So the FIA pulled a classic F1 move, punish the team, protect the drama. But in the end, Kimi Räikkönen, Mr. Ice Cream himself, sneaks the title on the final race by a single point. Ferrari wins. McLaren's in shambles. Alonso runs away. Lewis is traumatized. Ron Dennis probably aged 15 years. To this day, fans argue whether that title counts. Did Ferrari win fair and square? Did McLaren cheat the whole time? Did Alonso actually blackmail his own boss? Spygate was crazy. And all because one dude at Ferrari was mad and had access to a printer. The Red Bull strange cover-up. Here we go. The scandal with the most boring name and the most laughably weak punishment. Red Bull's 2021 cost cap breach. Let's set the scene. 2021. One of the most intense seasons in F1 history. Max versus Lewis. Neck and neck. Controversial finishes. Emotional damage everywhere. But then in 2022, the FIA drops a little bomb. Yeah, so Red Bull may have spent a little too much in 2021. How much? A few million, you know, just enough to maybe afford a better rear wing or an extra round of upgrades. But now, you'd think breaching a financial rule during a title fight would be a big deal. Maybe strip some points, maybe reverse the outcome. But no, not at all. The FIA looked at the breach, looked at the championship, looked at the angry fans, and gave Red Bull a fine and a little wind tunnel timeout. A fine. To Red Bull, owned by Red Bull, a company that makes billions. But let's not forget the reason Red Bull gave. It was catering. Yes, according to them, they overspent because they bought too much food. Apparently, the secret to beating Mercedes is an extra tray of chicken wraps or something. Fans lost their minds. Memes exploded. Catering world champion became a real thing. Other teams, especially Toto and Mercedes, were furious. The conspiracy theory? The FIA didn't want to touch Max's title. They knew if they actually punished Red Bull properly, all hell would break loose. So instead, they handed out the softest penalty imaginable and hoped everyone would just move on. And honestly, it kind of worked. Max kept his title. Red Bull kept their trophies. The FIA kept their fingers in their ears going, la la la, no controversy here. So the question is, was this a real penalty or just a really expensive meal plan? Either way, it's proof that in F1, even the rules have fine print. And apparently, a food budget loophole. Massey's exit deal. Here is where it gets dark. Now, for the moment, that turned every F1 fan into a legal analyst overnight. Abu Dhabi 2021. You know it. You lived it. You're still healing. Final race. Final lap. Lewis is leading, dominating the entire race. Max is behind, tires shot, title slipping. But then, Nicholas Latifi decides to audition for NASCAR and bins it. Safety car. Now, normally, under F1 rules, all lapped cars would have to unlap themselves before the race restarts, or the race would end under safety car. That's the rule. But Michael Massey, F1 race director / chaos merchant, pulls a plot twist straight out of WWE. Only the lapped cars between Lewis and Max may overtake. Wait, what? Then he restarts the race immediately after. One lap shootout. Max on fresh softs. Lewis on dead hards. You don't need to be a strategist to know what's coming. Max overtakes, wins the race, wins the title. But the rest of the world? Silent. Then rage. Then memes. Then full-blown war. Now here's where it gets dark. The theory says this wasn't just a mistake. It was a setup. Why? Simple. F1 needed drama. New fans. A new champion. A Netflix moment. Lewis had been dominating for years. Max was the fresh face, the edgy quote machine, the drama engine. And the sport, owned by Liberty Media, who loves a good narrative. So Massey, conveniently, makes the one decision that hands Max the title in the most dramatic way possible. But then, poof, he's gone. Removed from his position, quietly. No interview, no real explanation, just restructured. Some fans think he got paid to take the fall, that he was offered a golden parachute. Do what you have to do, and we'll make sure you land softly. And honestly, the FIA never fully owned the mistake. They admitted human error, said they'd change the rules. But the result? Final. Max keeps the title. Massey disappears. Lewis doesn't speak for months. Toto's throwing headphones like an Olympic event. And the trust in race direction? Absolutely cooked. Whether it was scripted or just a meltdown under pressure, fans still say the 2021 final was a bit too dark. The Bottas conspiracy theory. Let's talk about poor Valtteri Bottas, the human DRS zone, the man who spent 5 years at Mercedes pretending to race. Except, was he actually allowed to? Because every time Bottas showed up with speed, with form, with a hint of fight, somehow, magically, he got told to back off. Hold position, let Lewis through. Valtteri, it's James. The phrase that haunts Finnish dreams. Now, nobody's saying team orders are new. They've been around since the wheel. But with Bottas, it started to feel deeper. Like he'd signed a contract with a big fat asterisk that said, "You are not here to win, you are here to protect the king." 2020 Turkish Grand Prix. Bottas spins 6 times. Not because he forgot how to drive, but because rumor has it the team gave him the worst setup. Why? So Lewis could clinch his 7th title in peace. Coincidence? Maybe. Or maybe Bottas was racing with a car set to Slide Simulator. Then there's Russia 2018. Bottas is leading. Clean race, no mistakes. But then, boom, team order. Let Lewis by. Bottas obeys. Doesn't even flinch. And Mercedes? It's for the championship. Fans? It's character assassination. But don't forget the times Bottas magically got slow pit stops, or ended up on worse strategies, or was mysteriously stuck behind backmarkers just long enough for Lewis to escape. Suspicious, right? The theory? Mercedes never let Bottas race freely. He was hired to be fast, but not too fast, because when your main guy is chasing records, the last thing you want is a teammate ruining the headline. Was Valtteri in on it? Probably. He played the nice guy perfectly, gave just enough attitude to make it look real, but never enough to rock the boat. And the payoff? He got dumped anyway. After 5 years of loyal service, Mercedes swapped him for George Russell, who, fun fact, actually races Lewis, because suddenly the team order days are over. Weird how that works. So Bottas, the man gave gave up wins, points, and maybe even dignity for what? A couple constructors' trophies and a goodbye email? He wasn't a driver, he was a Mercedes bodyguard, a fast-moving decoy, a smiling sacrifice, but he deserved better. The disappearing whistleblowers. You ever notice how people in F1 just vanish? Not like retired to the countryside vanish. More like spoke up about something shady and were never heard from again. Vanish. Welcome to the whistleblower theory of Formula One. Let's start with Nigel Stepney, the Ferrari guy who leaked 780 pages of top-secret designs to McLaren in 2007. Yes, that's Spygate. He didn't exactly vanish, but let's just say his career didn't survive the fallout. He got fired, blacklisted, and spent the rest of his life in motorsport obscurity until his sudden death in a road accident in 2014. Weird? Yeah. Coincidence? F1 fans don't believe in those. But then there's the mechanics and engineers who occasionally spill the beans on toxic workplaces, rigged favoritism, or sabotage parts, then get reassigned or leave the team for personal reasons. Translation? They talk too much. How about that one ex-Williams engineer who claimed upper management ignored car problems to save face? Gone. Or the Red Bull staffer who anonymously leaked wind tunnel secrets during Vettel's reign. Never heard from again. Fired, paid off, relocated to AlphaTauri's basement? Nobody knows. F1 is a sport of silence. NDA's tighter than a tire blanket. If you speak, you disappear. If you complain, you get moved aside. Publicly, everyone smiles. Privately, it's like the mafia with pit boards. Even drivers aren't safe. Ask Sebastian Vettel why he suddenly fell off at Ferrari. Was it just bad luck? Or did someone upstairs start cutting power once he stopped towing the team line? But let's not ignore how whistleblowers are often painted as disgruntled or not credible. Because in this sport, protecting the brand is more important than telling the truth. So the theory goes, speak up in F1 and you don't just lose your job, you lose your story, you're erased, you're ghosted harder than a Haas sponsor. It's like racing's own version of Fight Club. Rule number 1, don't talk about the team. Rule number 2, don't even think about talking about the team. Because once you do, well, good luck finding another seat or another mic. Vettel's 2013 engine switch theory. Let's rewind to the Red Bull dynasty. 4 straight titles, a car that stuck to the track like a cursed magnet, and one German wonder kid named Sebastian Vettel destroying everyone in sight. But here's the part fans love whispering about. Was Vettel really just that good? Or was he getting special sauce in his engine? Enter the Multi-21 incident. Malaysia 2013. Red Bull tells both drivers, Vettel and Mark Webber, to hold position. Code words, Multi-21. Webber in P1, Vettel in P2. Race should finish peacefully, except Seb ignores it. Passes Webber, takes the win, doesn't even blink. Webber nearly turns Aussie Hulk on the podium, and the team totally shocked. But here's the thing, why would Vettel knowingly break team orders unless he knew he couldn't be touched? That's where the theory begins. Whispers in the paddock said Vettel was getting the better spec engine, the one with extra reliability, extra power, the upgrades first. Meanwhile, Webber was allegedly driving the demo version from last week's factory run. Every time Webber's car broke down, unfortunate. Every time Vettel had 0 issues, genius driving. Sure, but when Webber did have the pace, suddenly there were strategy mistakes, or pit stops that took longer than an FIA investigation. Funny how that works. It got so obvious that even David Coulthard started dropping hints on commentary. Seems like Vettel's package is working a bit better today. Red Bull denied everything, of course, said both cars were equal. But let's be honest, does anyone believe Christian Horner when he says equal treatment? The man would gaslight you into thinking you changed the tyre wrong. But let's not forget Adrian Newey, the mastermind designer, basically admitted that the car was built to suit Vettel's style, not Webber's. So even if the hardware was equal, the car sure wasn't. The end result, Vettel won everything. And the fan theory? That Red Bull picked their golden boy and gave him the F1 equivalent of cheat codes. Was it favoritism or just business?